right. So last week we talked about mindset, right? And basically it's our mindset going into into the transactions and going into all the changes that are happening. But this week, I want to talk about the mindset of the clients. Okay. Because like I've said before, when you go into this stuff and if you get an objection, whether it's from another agent or a client, if you're not ready and you're not used to these objections, it's like getting punched in the mouth for the first time. It knocks you off balance, and it takes you a second to get back on point. So can we all agree that mindset for our clients is just as important as our mindset? Has
Yes.
anybody ever had a emotional buyer or seller?
Is there any other kind?
It really not. I mean, people they have a reason why they want to sell, right? For example, I'm working with one right now, and I mean the house is great. I mean the client actually took amazing care of this house. It looks amazing. It really does look like something you might see if you were going into a model. Problem with it is it's 2005, 2004, 2005 construction, right? But the pluses are it's over 2,000 square feet. It's a 4-bedroom, 2-bath with a true split floor plan. It's got a brand new, roof. They put in only a couple of years ago a brand new saltwater pool, and it's on a beautiful pond. So the view is really amazing. But it's a 4.2, 2,000 square feet in Sebastian in a gated community, right? So we know that the value of the house is only going to be so high. However, like I said, the house is done like a model, or possibly you might want to look at it as a shrine, right? Because the wild card to this is the fact that the husband, and they bought this house was it 19 years ago. The husband passed away not all that long ago. Okay. And apparently, and you can tell in the house, she and he were very proud of his accomplishments. So every room you go into, it rings out of him, right? It doesn't ring out of really of her or the kids. It rings out for him. So we have a situation where it's her and the 2 kids, and the kids are technically grown now, but they still live at home. They just don't need that size house anymore. So they purchased another house a little further north that's smaller, easy to manage, the whole bit. But realistically, we're listing it at $499, but that's going to be really the top of where it's going to be valued at because of everything else we have in the community. It really is a nice house ready to move into. But she just texted me a little while ago, hey, what do you think if we change the price to $525? Right? I mean, that's not a couple of dollars. That's a lot. And her reasoning is because she went online and she found a Cali, right, which is a similar square footage. It's just under 2,000 square feet, new construction, right, and it's 400,000. But hers has a lot more stuff done to it. So I had to have that conversation with her. Look, I understand that. However, it is new construction. We have the biggest differences there are what? The insurance and the interest rates that they give on new construction, right? So that's a huge, huge change, right? And they're not, these are in different communities. So just one example, but can we all agree that's going to be a major player? And that's something I need to be very, very, very aware of, that this is where she lived with her husband for 19 years before. And I'm pretty sure that they were married long before that. And now she's got to sell the home. This has memories. It's not a house to her. It is a home. Does that make sense? So what would be, I mean, just if you were dealing with this situation, how would you handle somebody that is that emotionally tied to a house but has a need to sell it? Any thoughts?
What do you mean, Chris?
Well, I gave you the scenario. You have an emotional person that needs to sell, right? They can't, really, take the house, or upkeep the house anymore. Just, if you were dealing with that and you knew that there was this strong of an emotional connection, how would you, is there anything that you would have in your portfolio that you could offer or use to appease them and make them realize that, that it's going to be okay? Because we got to get past these emotions, right?
Right.
So how long has it been on the market, Chris?
Well, it's not on the market yet. We just got the listing signed.
Well, for
So-
one, I would price it like you have it, because the whole time you were talking about the house, I was thinking 500,000. Because most houses, maybe not in y'all's area, but it's around 200 a square foot. So that would be 400,000. And then you bump up a little bit for add-ons and everything. But by pricing it on the higher end of the spectrum, it will buy a little bit of time to maybe, get into acceptance.
Yeah, but let's try and stick on the client's mindset for right now. I just want to kind of get you guys to think outside of the box, because we think in mechanical terms, right? We think price per square foot. We think upgrades and things like this that are going to bring value to the house. To her, it's a home, right? And I know this is kind of a wonky question, but one of the things that I do, right, when I do this, and then I did in this particular case, because he was a big, apparently some bigwig. He used to be a radio show host. He was with iHeartMedia, had his own radio show, the whole house is riddled with, these plaques from different artists. I noticed Prince and Britney Spears and all these different artists that he had had come in contact with. So this was pretty big. So being that she has taken so much time to make this house into it, one of the things that I offered, I'm going to do it anyway, right? I offered, right, because we don't have a lot of staging to do a photo shoot and put it together in a collective album for her. So that this way she could preserve the memory of the house, right? We're going to take the pictures anyway. So why not offer to preserve it? Now, I've offered that on multiple occasions, probably 15 to 20 times over the years. I've offered that in these emotional circumstances, and nobody yet has taken me up on it. But the fact that they see that that's an option, it shows that I'm not just in it just for the bottom dollar of selling the house. Does that make sense? So my point behind this is we have to assess the mindset of what these people are looking for. We already know when we're doing the listing appointment, do you want a fast sale and take less money but easier, less cumbersome with showings, or do you want to try and be as many showings as possible and bring the most amount of offers to the table, right? Does that make sense? So, and I bring this stuff up because there's a lot of this. This one's kind of a relatively unique, even though I've seen similar circumstances. It's unique in this big of a loss with this much of a connection, but people are emotionally connected to their houses, right? Think about your houses, right? The places you live. Okay. How many of you, some of you guys have kids. Does anybody have tick marks on their wall from when their kids were getting taller and taller? Right? Heather, you're saying yes. Is that an emotional thing for you?
Yes, I actually had a story about that, but yeah, it was very emotional because we moved out of that house and I lived there for 20 years, and I begged somebody to take that door and replace it so we could take it with us, and it didn't happen. So I took pictures of it and measurements so I could redo it in the next house, but it wasn't the same. I know it sounds silly, but you don't understand. Life has
But-
been kids, so
But it's
very
not.
special.
I was sitting with my daughter, right? And we were having dinner, and she was telling me about her work. Now she lives up in West Virginia. I don't get to see her all that often. But she was telling me about her work, and she's doing very well for herself. She runs a financial department for a college up there. She's doing good, and I know that this is all true, right? It's not. I don't think for a minute that she's lying to me. But as I was sitting there, and it was just me and her, and she's telling me this, it was the strangest thing because I had this, like, literally, I sat there and I saw a 13-year-old girl telling me this story. And it was the craziest thing. It knocked me back for a second, right? So again, this is, these people that have built these lives in these houses, right? We don't live the way we stage a house, right? That's not how we live. If you come in my house right now, my living room, I got 2 desks, we got a bunch of monitors. This is where we work in here. In the other room, it's for lounging out and when we're not doing anything. Before I had a house full of people, this was my gym in here, right? I mean, I would not set it up for showings like that, right? But this is the way we live, right? And in your houses, you have the same things. You live your lives. You have memories, right? And some of these memories are stronger, right? What's up there, Sherry?
So funny thing about that, I cannot appraise my own home. I can't. I am spot on with appraisals. I cannot appraise my own home. So I have to hire an outside appraiser when I refinance this one and when I sold the other one. Here I go. I said, "Do you see the crown molding? Do you see the French doors?" And in the one we sold, and he goes, "Sherry, do you want me to write crown molding and French doors on the inspection report?" I'm like, "Would you?" He's like, "No." He goes, "I'm going to check a box that says upgraded." I'm like, "Oh, I can't. I don't know how much my own house is worth, no matter how hard I try." So, I get it. I have to hire an appraiser.
And you are not the only one that is there, in that mindset, right? I was on a listing appointment where this guy showed me he installed custom brass dolphin knobs on the exterior water spigots.
Oh my goodness.
And he was so proud of these little knobs. They did absolutely nothing for the value of the home, right? But every little thing he was super proud of, right? And sometimes they add value, sometimes they don't, right? And I'm bringing this up because every one of you here lives someplace. You have a home. Some of you guys have been in your homes longer than others. Some of you just got there, and that's okay. But how many memories do you have in your own personal homes? Right. So this is why I want to bring up the mindset of the people. We have, on one hand, we have the home, right? That they have all these memories. But then we also have all the noise that's going out in the world, right? All this stuff. Oh, interest rates are so high. They're not high. We know that, right? We can look at the trends, but they remember 2%, 3% not too long ago, right? Which was completely unheard of, right? So now we take the emotional part, we throw in some things that they think are facts, and we have to overcome them and show that we are a person that is not just interested in the sale of their home. Does that make sense? We have to let them know that we are there to protect their biggest asset. And sometimes those deep set memories. Now, on that note, with Heather, with her door that she wanted to keep, that was in your old house. Could you have kept that door?
Yes, I could have taken it off and put a new one and taken it with me, but it sounds really silly, but I wanted the door. I figured I would have it I just didn't have time to really. I wanted the door. I don't know what to tell you. I
Mhm.
wanted the door because I felt like me not getting the door, I was leaving my memories behind, and that was something I had to overcome myself. I sold my house too, so
Mhm.
therefore, I didn't have someone that had to deal with me, but I had to take the emotions out of it, and it was really hard. And trying to explain even to my husband that, I've done the comps, I've sold a lot of houses in our neighborhood. I know what it's worth, and I sold it for exactly what I listed it for. So, I mean, yeah, I wanted more for it. Yeah, I thought it was worth more, but in a personal, deep down inside, but I also knew the comps and I knew what it was worth. So,
But it is very hard for most people to put a value on their own home.
oh,
So they
absolutely.
attach value to things that unfortunately the buyers are not interested in.
Yep.
You know, in this house, one of the rooms has soundproofing, right? Because he was a musician, right? For them, it added value. I don't know about you guys. I don't go into many houses that have soundproofing in the walls, right?
Although it
So
sounds pretty awesome.
what's that?
Sounds pretty awesome.
Oh, it's a great house. It's a great house, and it has a ton of potential, and it's great layout, beautiful view. But there's these things out there that are affecting our clients that are going to be outside of just what we show them in a CMA and in our well thought out listing presentation, right? And this is why it is so important to have those consultations, to have those conversations, and listen to what they have to say. I did tell a seller to cut. Oh, I'm sorry, it went away. I did tell a seller to cut or take the board out and replace it so they could take the measurements with them. Also did a pre-appraisal, like you said, so they can see the value. 100%. I mean, if it's a piece of drywall, I mean, drywall is relatively easy to cut out and repair. But just be aware that if the house hasn't been painted in 19 years, okay, and now all of a sudden you have this spot on the wall, okay, you're going to have some explaining to do, right? Or you're going to have to paint the whole room or whatever it is, right? But there's ways around it. Light fixtures. We know that they're affixed to a house. It is so much easier if you have a light fixture that is super important to you. Like, for example, I got I wouldn't pay the money. I got them at a ridiculous price. But the fans I have in my main areas, they're like $650 fans. I didn't pay that for them, right? But that's what they for regular prices, like $650. If I was to sell my house today, and that's how the clients see it, the buyers, and then they come in and I got a $99 Walmart special up there, they're going to be pretty pissed off, right? But if I take it down before I take pictures and market it, nobody knows the difference, right? So a lot of these things, if we just listen, most people will tell you, no, I know it's an expensive fan, but it's been up there for X amount of years, and honestly, I'm just going to get new ones for the new house anyway. Right? Just whatever it is. Like Heather realized that unfortunately, as much as she wanted the door, it wasn't whether it wasn't time or whatever it wasn't feasible to take that door with her.
And
Make sense?
seriously, what would I look like with moving in with a door that had all? I mean,
Well,
it just wasn't. Yeah, it didn't make sense. But
what if you decided you want to bring a whole pack of doors that already had pre-drilled cat doors in them?
you know what, Chris? We're not friends anymore.
And I make a joke about that, but there's also stuff that goes the other way too. Sometimes it's bad memories and they just want to get out of it. Right? So we need to have the conversations, right? The mindset of our clients. I have another one listed right now, and they told me that they weren't pressed to sell it, and the husband calls me every day for an update on the showings and feedback and how many leads we have every day, right? He's much more emotional than I anticipated. Okay. I should have picked up on that, when I was doing the listing, appointment. You're not going to get every one of them. But knowing what makes these people tick will help you immensely as you go through it. It's also what will build you a client for life. Does that make sense? That's one of the reasons why I really, really enjoy when I go on a listing appointment and the seller tells me, when I get to the door, that I'm greeted with something along the lines of, just want you to know, I don't like realtors. Right? I like it because they're telling me, they're putting it out there right in front of me, where they're coming from. And they just told me, what did they tell me by making that statement?
They basically wanted you to give it to them straight and don't beat around the bush too.
And I wouldn't be there if there wasn't a real need. Right? It's just like when I'm working with buyers and I ask them, how are you liking, searching for homes? And the person says, oh, I love looking at homes. Makes me cringe every time. But if a buyer says, oh, I hate looking at homes, I can't wait till this is over, that tells me that there's a need, and we need to get to the point. I can alleviate that pain, right? If the person loves looking at homes and this is a hobby, right, there's no pain for me to remove. And now they just want to go hang out. Now, I don't want to just go hang out with random people just because they want to look at houses. I've seen tons of houses over the course of my career. Right. But I need to ask more questions at that point. Great. You like looking at homes. What is it about the homes that you're looking for? You might be surprised. I'm thinking about renovating some old homes. I'm trying to get some decorating ideas. Well, great. Why are we looking at this home? Go into a model home. They're open, 7 days a week. Does that make sense?
I'm trying to put in the chat. I don't know, can't find the chat on my phone, but like I sent you weird emojis. But they always say like money changes hands when problems are solved.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. 100%. Right? We solve a problem for them. Right? I was on, today's Tuesday. Yesterday afternoon, I was exhausted. Okay. But on my sheets, I don't have them here. I leave them at the office. But on my daily trackers that I follow, and for those of you that have seen them, there's a spot at the bottom, right? And it says 1MT, 1MT, right? It means one more thing, one more time. And every day before I cut out, I make one more phone call, right? I'm exhausted. I'm tired. It's time for me to go. I make one more phone call. On yesterday afternoon, I decided to call a sales rep from a new construction builder, right? Just to make sure he remembers that we're there, and that if they need coverage for the model, that we can cover them. You know what happened when I called him? Anybody want to take a guess what happened?
I was just thinking about you, Chris.
What were you saying, Monica?
They need coverage.
No. He wants to buy a property, but because he works for a new builder, he's not allowed to buy a property on his own.
Oh,
so he just became my buyer.
Oh, for heaven's sakes.
Right? He's getting ready to retire in a few years. He wants to buy some property and build a home. So now we're looking at the difference between buying land and building a custom home where he wants to be. Right? But listening and having conversations. I mean, I knew that by talking with him, there was a chance that maybe we stand in a model and sell some homes, which we've done over the years. But how cool is that when he decides, he says, oh, I was going to call you anyway. You're my guy for, you're my top pick. Right? How many realtors does a builder have to choose from?
Lots.
Right? Absolutely. They have tons that are coming in with clients. They're registering them, doing different things. So, setting down that value, that this was a This was a process that was set into motion quite a while ago, right? And now I'll help him build his retirement home, right?
That's
But
awesome.
sometimes, what's that, Lauren?
That's awesome.
Yeah, 100%. And, but it's just by listening and having real conversations with these people and developing real relationships. That's, the CRMs that you guys use. Okay. These are contact relationship managers, right? It's to manage your relationships. Because if it wasn't for this job, I would probably hang out with the same 3 or 4 people on a regular basis. And that's who I would deal with, right? On a regular basis. I wouldn't be getting out of here, but being that we're in sales, we have to have a much broad base of people we deal with. Can we agree on that? And by doing that, by creating that value, you start to realize the mindsets and what's going on with different people. Okay. Summertime. I've already sent probably half a dozen different people links for things to do with their kids for the summer. Right? Doesn't take me long. I put it in Google or go on Facebook, find something, for their kids, because they're screaming about, I can't wait for my kids to go back to school. I don't know what to do. Right? Find the problem and solve it. Right? I still say one of the greatest things that I have experienced was when one of my clients called me up to ask me what to get her husband for his birthday. Right? That's when you know that you've reached a certain level with your clients. But it's about building the relationships, which goes into learning about their mindset. Does that make sense to everybody? Anybody have any thoughts? Who has had an unexpected experience with a client where all of a sudden you built some rapport and you didn't, it went beyond just the buying and selling process? Char, are you shaking your head? Yes.
Yeah, you mean in a good way all the time, because it's almost like you're on a movie set, like they say. They say to me, "Well, I spoke to you every day, twice a day for, however long, and then now what?" So,
Mm-hmm.
you
Mm-hmm.
some people I don't want to
Well,
maintain, but yeah, then you
yeah.
maintain that.
So I truly believe that life is made up of culminating events, right? No matter what it is, right? Most everybody here is in either married or in some sort of relationship, or you've been in one. And think about that relationship, that you're in now, or you were, or whatever. There was a point in that relationship, maybe it was early on, maybe it was a little bit later, where all of a sudden it hit and you're like, you know what, this person is different than everybody else. I want to keep them around. It might have been something simple they did, a gesture, something they said, whatever it was. There was this, sometimes big, sometimes small, these events that define your relationships, right? And they can be for a ton of different reasons. Sometimes those culminating events destroy a relationship because you realize that person is not who you thought they were, and then you break up with them, right? It's the same thing as a real, with your, business associates or whatever it is. Something happens that will either strengthen or weaken the relationship. And I believe that all relationships are made of that. Sometimes you don't really have one of those, so the person stays an acquaintance, right? And they never really become anything, and that's fine. There's a lot of people out there that I have as acquaintances, but they just were never close enough to have those types of events. But as you have those events, you start to build emotional equity in a relationship, right? And that's where this whole mindset comes into play, because if you can identify that and you can really listen to somebody and help them, all of a sudden you're building these clients for life, like we discussed. Does that make sense? Shara, you're laughing over there. You got something to go along with it?
Well, I always do. Lance and I just started dating, and we rode our motorcycles to the Pompano Pier, which was 10 minutes from his house, and mine was 40 minutes. And he gave me a kiss, and I go, "That's it?" He goes, "That's all you get. But good night." I'm like, "What? Who? Okay." But that was it for me. I'm like, "Ooh, this guy, who the hell does he think he is?" He rode away. I'm like, "Okay." And I was hooked. That was it. I had to have more of that. No one ever talked to me like that before.
And it's little things like that. And it's the same thing
Heather's
here.
like,
Obviously, you don't want to kiss your clients. All right. So let's just take that off the table. But
well, sometimes I want. No, I'm
Oh,
kidding.
scary.
No, I kiss their dogs. This one lady, I walked right up, it's not forced, but what Chris is saying, but I'm just me, and I walked into the house, and oh my God, there's the cat. It picked up the dog every time I go over. And now they're like, they send me pictures of the dog. We're in contract, so we're still together, but they go, Kiki misses you. Look, she dressed up for you. She's wearing pearls. I'm like, oh my God. But as soon as I come in the house, I pick the dog up and give her kisses, and they love that because they love their dog. Um, and I love her too, but I just, I think for them, maybe with me, that's how you form the relationship. Like when they have children, do you bring little, if you're have buyers and they have little kids, do you bring waters and granola bars, whatever, that kind of stuff.
I don't deal a lot with families with little kids anymore, just for whatever reason. But at the office, we
Heather's
have
like,
kids to go boxes, which on its
oh,
which on its name sounds creepy, kids to go, but it's not. So when I have a family with little kids, the stressful thing is because kids have no control over the move, right? So they act out, they do stupid stuff. So I have moving boxes that they can color and make them their own, and then I give them jobs to do, right? So now they have to pack their own stuff, they have to do all this stuff, so it gives them the power back. Now, for the parents, by giving those kids, now I'm not going to pick up the kids and give them kisses.
no,
That's
talk
creepy.
about that
But
dog and the cat.
yeah, but and dogs are easy to build rapport with. But by giving those kids those boxes and making them part of the transaction, do you think you're building more rapport with those clients? 100%. You're building this stuff, and it's easing that mindset, so they start to realize that you're not just in this for the paycheck. Right? I know everybody here. Nobody here is that I've seen so far, and maybe I'm wrong, but nobody on this call is here just for a paycheck. We're all here for a paycheck, but we also have a higher power to what we're doing. Right? It's about creating a better life for our clients, and they need to see that. And it's okay to show them that. Does that make sense? Now, one of the other things that I've seen a lot, and I'm sure you guys have as well, when we're calling people and we're talking to people, right? What is everybody, their first go-to, right? Prices are too high, interest rates are too high, right? They're leading with the fact, with the noise that they've heard on the news, right? Well, I already know that. As soon as you say that, I know that you're just listening to the noise, right? Does the price or the interest rate really play into whether or not somebody makes a decision on buying a house? No, because if they really have a need to move, they're going to adjust their criteria, right? It's about affordability, right? Oh, I got to save the 20%. It's a stupid way to go. We have already agreed upon that. $200,000 house, or $300,000 house, $300,000 house. I gotta save $60,000 to get that 20% down. And we know that realistically, if I'm looking at $300,000 houses to save $60,000, that's going to be tight, right? Right. So really what they're saying is they're scared of the market and what they're hearing on the news. So how do we overcome that? Right. Martha's dealing with somebody that she's got an appointment later this week with that says she wants to do a rent to own because she's got no money for a down payment, but she's got a 740 credit score. Okay. Who thinks we can find her some low or no down payment options out there?
I just did it. We just closed on one like that.
Yeah, 100%. Now, I know Martha will take care of it.
Oh, I know.
But
she
also
will.
Martha can't talk right now, so we can pick on her while she's not able to talk. So, but no, Martha will do great with it. But my point is, I have somebody that thinks that their only option is a rent to own when they can actually purchase right now, right? Okay. Prices are still going up, right? Even though we have, some, houses being negotiated, we still have prices overall are going up. And we can negotiate some really great terms, seller concessions, right? Possibly some repairs if we're really strapped on cash, right? Everybody knows that I would rather have my buyers do the repairs themselves if they can afford it. But sometimes we don't have the ability, so we need those repairs done. But we can get some really cool concessions done.
Yeah, Chris, the people I'm dealing with right now, the rate buy down, if they just got 15,000 from the seller, year one, all right, so the payment was 4,050. It's ridiculous on a $535,000 house. $15,000 in concession to buy down the rate brings the payment year one $3,415. That's $633 saved.
Is that a
Year
2-1 buy down or is that a regular buy down?
Yeah, 2-1 buy down. So my point is they're young kids. I said to them, I said, you guys make sure you can afford the 4,050 first of all, because you're going to have to pay it eventually. And we don't know if in 3 years the rates will go, lower than what you're getting today. I said, however, the first year is $633 off. Then year two is $3,730. And then year three, it's $4,050. Now, I took the savings, and that's a savings of $11,436 over 2 years, which is less than the $15,000 if they took it towards their closing costs, right?
Mhm.
So I just said to them, they go, well, what do you think? I said, it's not what I think. I said, it's what do you guys want to keep 15,000 in your pocket, or is the less stress of such a large payment, how do you save your money and whatever, and this, that, and the other. And they opted, even though it was less money by $320, they were going to opt for the rate buy down because they wanted a lower monthly payment. It wasn't going to stress the heck out of them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And they're first time home buyers?
No.
No. Okay.
Young. That's the two sold each of their condos, and they just
Okay.
like you said, he on another house, he was like, oh my God, they're telling me my payment at this price is $4,000 a month. He goes, I'm not doing it. They went to an open house while I was away and said, we want to buy this house. I'm like, okay, the payment's the same as when they said they didn't want to do it because they want this house.
And we buy emotionally and we justify logically.
Yep.
Right. So, and when we're putting emotions and logic all in the same package, sometimes it's hard to balance. We all know that person or multiple people that is highly, highly emotional. And no matter what you do, they just fly off the handle, either in a good way or a bad way. Right. Ones that are too affectionate, ones that are angry, it just, people are people, right? We've built every system that we can possibly do here on the team, but at the end of the day, it all relies on the people that are willing to use it. We have certain people that are here tonight, right, that are willing to work and better themselves. But when I sent out the message, I sent it out to 137 people.
Do you know in our particular brokerage, we had 433 people in the 2-hour discussion today, and there's 10,000 agents.
Yeah. You know, everybody has their different priorities, right? Daniel's at a swim meet right now, right? That's a priority for him, right? His kid's swimming, right? And I don't blame him. I'd be there too, right? I mean, does anybody have things that are more important to them than selling a house? Yeah. I mean, there's things that, you know, unfortunately, if it happened right now, I'd have to jump off here and tell you guys I'd see you next week, right? Now, granted, unless it's something major, I'm not jumping off. But you know, keep in mind, there's those things that are going on out there that are more important than whatever you think is the most important thing. Right. So it's really, really, really important to build, you know, learn the mindset of your people. One of my favorite books out there, and I've said it before, I've read it a bunch of times over the years, Instant Rapport. Right. It's a very simple read for anybody that hasn't read it. Instant Rapport. I forget the author, but it goes into just, you know, building those relationships, you know, mirroring people, you know, kind of a very entry level NLP type of thing. But it does help you to realize, and as you do these things and you start to pick up on these cues, you start to realize the mindsets of the people. You know, what drives them. All right. Martha, I saw you put in the comments, she also doesn't want to show her finances either. Is that the one with the 740? Okay. You know, we can talk about it once you're back to being able to talk, but you know, I would want to have the conversation with her. You know, what is it about your finances? You know, we're not using this to hurt you, right? You know, what is it about your finances that concerns you? You know, we work with reputable people. Your information is protected, but this is, you know, you've worked hard to get that 740 credit score. Let's leverage that into a house. You know, and what's that pain point? I don't want to show my finances, but do you really want to pay a higher price on a rental? You know, even a rent to own, right? You're still going to have to show your finances, right? So we need to find out what it is about that hurt, you know, is bothering her, right? And do we have people that are afraid to show their finances? 100%, folks, right? I mean, that's like, you know, yeah, it's like going to the doctor for a proctology exam, right? Nobody wants to
Very
do that.
vivid picture. Thank
Well,
you.
but nobody wants to do it, right? I mean, you know, people, you know, they're going into places, you know, when they look into your financials, they're going into places, they're going to see your late payments. They're going to see if you maxed out your credit cards, right? They're going to, you know, it gives them a glimpse into how you live, right? And a lot of people don't want to share that information.
So that was an objection. I work with mainly Sphere and referrals. So when I started a long time ago, you just made me remember that was an objection. I don't want, you know, I don't want everybody knowing my business. I said, what everyone? I said, who better to protect you than me? And now I also, you just made me realize I don't get that anymore. Like nobody, but I remember they were like, you know, well, I don't want everybody knowing my business. I'm like, well, no, nobody's going to know your business. Maybe I used to tell, now I don't know, but I don't think I did. But, you know, so they trust me now. I'm like, who better to protect you than your best friend?
Yep. I know a lender that I will not use anymore. And unfortunately, I tried to use him because he was also, we were acquaintances, but I met him through a friend of mine. So when she decided to buy a house, it made sense that we would go through that lender, right? Well, she came to me. She was absolutely upset beyond words because she goes to she goes back home, right where she's currently living, and her neighbor, who happens to do the credit repair for this guy, two separate companies, says, well, why don't you just make the move? I know you got an 800 credit score. Right? There was no reason why he should have put that information out there. But that's why people get nervous about that. They hear stories like that. So you gotta be conscious of what is really, pushing these people. I don't know about you. If I was going to a lender or anybody and they put my personal information out like that, they'd be lucky if I just had some bad words for them. Right? I mean, you betrayed my confidence, my trust. Right? That's one of those culminating events, but not in a good way. Right? Eddie, you got all those young kids that work for you, right?
Yes, sir. More than I would like to say.
Yeah, absolutely. But do you ever have a kid that you have a good relationship with, or an employee?
Yes, I have. And one of the questions I ask everybody whenever I'm doing interviews for high schoolers, two things. One is, what's your GPA, and what do you plan on doing after you graduate? And I try to stick. Sometimes the 4.05 students are not the best employees in the world, and sometimes the 2.0s are not. Usually, I try to stay in the working class, the 2.5 to 3.2 people.
Okay. Yeah, but some of those people, I'm sure that, I know they're young, but you're developing relationships with them, right?
Yes,
They see you.
and I still, some, I don't do a lot of Facebook with my employees, but some of them get it, and I'm still on there 20 years later.
Yeah, but you build a relationship, and I remember some of my first bosses, right? And they helped to shape who I am, right? It's the same way with your first realtor or your second realtor or third realtor. If you're the third realtor, the two people before you didn't do something right.
Correct.
Right? Otherwise, they'd still be going to the other realtor.
One
So
thing
it's
I
all,
didn't really agree on with my ex, and I don't want to talk bad about her because I love the woman. She was great for me my whole real estate career. But one issue I had was, I always heard her say, I've spent 3 days with this person, and then they go buy a house from another realtor. And I'm like, that's part of the game.
well, but see, and that's we want to get rid of that, right? It's not part of the game because the game we weren't really playing the game if we let that person go, because we did not do the buyer broker. That's why I've always pushed the buyer broker agreement. And if you have the buyer broker agreement, then you lock them in. Okay. And that's one of the reasons why this whole lawsuit, I'm good with it. Mandating buyer broker agreements, thank you very much. Right? Because unfortunately, you have too many companies out there and they'll go show half a dozen properties. I mean, when I was doing the new construction, people would come in and they'd be like, oh, we love the house. They're out with a realtor. And the realtor's like, yeah, well, now we're going to get them pre-approved. I'm like, why would you look at $700,000 houses without a pre-approval? It doesn't make
like
sense.
Step two.
Yeah. So, the pre-approval, the buyer broker, these are all building blocks. You guys want to be the professionals. So we have to act like professionals and be aware of our value, right? We're allowed to project our value. I have no problems firing a client if it's not in my best interest to work with them. Make sense?
Yes, sir.
So does this make sense to you guys about the mindset of the clients? This is
it's not just nuts and bolts. It's a lot of personal stuff that has to play part.
It's not nuts and bolts. Nuts and bolts are easy. You tighten them up. If depending on the size, what size socket to use, and how much pressure to apply. But here, every person on this call has a different threshold for the amount of whatever emotion that they can handle. Some of you guys here are a little bit more touchy feely than I am. right? Warm and fuzzy, right? And that's okay, you know, but that's why we work together and we can feed off of each other. Okay. So, identify it, definitely start to listen. It's always the who, what, where, when, why, and how, right? The interrogatories, ask them, ask them the open-ended questions, not, do you want to go look at houses? They're going to say yes or no. Would you refer me to your clients or to your friends and family? They're going to say yes. They don't want to upset you. But asking them, do you have a realtor that you would work with? Right? That's the questions. Gets them thinking, gets them, thinking about what they actually, have in the back, back of their minds. Would they work with you or somebody else? Right? What does your perfect house look like? What does your life look like in the house? Forget about the house. What does your life look like in the house? Right? I like to have parties and have people over and barbecue and, sit outside and play frisbee with the dog, or I travel all the time and I don't want to do any maintenance, right? Two completely different lifestyles. Neither one of them's wrong, right? Condos, you close the door, you walk away. You don't have to worry about anything. You leave for 6 months, you come back. It's exactly how you left it. If I leave my house today for 6 months, I come back, my lawn's going to be, 6 feet tall. It's going to be a big old mess. Make sense? Anybody have any thoughts? Anything they want to add? We're doing this stuff because I want to make you guys think about this stuff, right? This is bigger. I keep saying this is bigger than just, hey, let me run through this checklist and find you the 3-bedroom, 2-bath, 2,000 square foot house that you've always wanted, right? Because we know not all square footage is created equal. No, not all buyers are created equal. We have different pre-approvals, different lifestyles, different things that they need in their life. And it's up to you to make that connection, have that conversation, and determine how to best help them, right? People all the time say buyers are liars, right? While there is a small portion of people out there that will intentionally deceive you because they're trying to be, shady, most people are deceiving you because of the fact that they don't actually know themselves, right? I don't want to divulge my financials because of the fact that I don't know what's going to happen when I do that, right? All I hear is, crazy stuff, right? I don't want to tell you about, the fact that I plan on, having, family members live with me, or I don't want to tell you, because of whatever the scenario is, but ask the questions, right? I had a woman that wanted to build a multi-generational home. She's like, oh, I'm going to build it. I want to have the in-law suite for me. I'm going to buy the house. I'll live in the in-law suite. My daughter and her husband and I think it was 3 kids are going to live in the main house. Great. How long has it been since the last time you saw your daughter? Well, 27 years. Okay. I mean, it was sad, but unfortunately, if the daughter hasn't come home in 27 years, she's unfortunately dreaming, right? The chances of the daughter coming home to live with her after 27 years and share a house, probably not that likely, especially when they are on opposite sides of the country, right? Some of the stories are sad, but people make these decisions emotionally. Now, could she have afforded it? Probably, but did it make sense for me to let her buy that house knowing that that kid was not coming home? Right?
Or you buy the house so they can't come home because there's no room.
Well, and there's that too, right?
That's your dream, Heather. That's your dream.
Yeah, I mean, I know a family. They did that. They did exactly that. They bought a small 2-bedroom, 2-bath house in Shady Side, right? And it's funny. I knew them. They were a nice older couple. They bought a 2-bedroom, 2-bath, and they threw. It was the funniest thing because they threw a family, like a reunion every year, but they did not want people coming to their house, like in their house. So they had a nice piece of property. I think it was like 2 or 3 acres, and their whole family would put up tents and they would bring out porta potties, and the family camped in the front yard for like the 3 days for the weekend because they didn't want the family in the house. I'm dead serious. It was the funniest thing, and everybody brought their tents, and everybody had a blast, right? But if I would have just led on the fact that they like to have big family get-togethers, I would have been looking for the wrong thing. Make sense? And it wasn't just the fact that they could only afford a 2-bedroom house. They had plenty of money. That's what they chose to do. Okay. So what I would love to see you guys, think about this stuff. We'll be continuing the conversations, but does this kind of like make sense and give you something to think about when you're dealing with your clients?
Yes, sir.
All right, cool. I like it. Let's get out there. Let's make some connections, build some, some relationships, and, change some lives. Now, ours and theirs. Sound good?
Yep. Can I make
Sounds
a public
great.
service announcement?
Yeah, absolutely. Good.
Okay, public service announcement. Number 1, please be sure to follow all of your respective MLSs and your brokers for the changes that are coming up. It's coming up sooner than you think. Number 2, if you are with me or you want to be with me, please try to come to the weekly Zoom at 10:30 tomorrow morning because we go over all this stuff. But at the very least, pay attention to what's coming out. It's it's not scary or anything like that, but your best foot forward is when you're the most prepared. So just please be conscious of that.
Yeah, and stuff keeps changing.
Absolutely.
So, yeah. And
people are starting early. How about that?
oh yeah.
Yeah. It was you. Yeah. Oh my God. Putting it on the contract, and what the heck? Asking for more commission. Smack that lady.
Well, and we'll talk more about that. A lot of that's going to be moot, so we're not going to get too far into it now, but we'll discuss that on an individual level. But yeah, folks, the world is changing, right? And this year we have the lawsuit. Next year it'll be something different. The year after that it'll be something else, and we will continue to evolve. And this is why I'm not afraid of it, because the industry is changing. The loan products, I mean, we have our core ones, but knowing what products are out there, right? It helps to be a seasoned professional. And people, when buying their houses, they will lose money, leave money on the table, all that kind of stuff if they don't have somebody to guide them. Sound good?
Yep.
So, Lauren, hopefully you've made it inside your gate by now. And,
yes, I'm in.
All right, cool. Congratulations.
Thanks.
So, but does anybody have anything they want to add before we cut out of here? All right, folks. Once again, thank you so much for joining us. I hope this kind of helps with the thought process. And yeah, let's get out there and change some lives.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Thank you,
everybody.
Chris.
Yeah.